Hello, viewers, and welcome to another exciting episode on EGIYE's leadership. Today, I'm really excited to introduce my good and very old friend, Sabrina Quaraishi. Sabrina is the CEO of Grameen Foundation in the US. She also, of course, now she's a very good friend of mine, but we started off as colleagues. More than 20 years ago. So, and at the risk of dating us or aging us, just wanted to say that she was a dear friend, a dear colleague, and I'm so excited to have her on the show and share with you about her journey. As I said, Sabrina is the CEO of Grameen Foundation. She has a long career. She has a very exciting and diverse upbringing as well. And today we are here to learn more about her, the person behind the journey. So Sabrina, without much further ado, my first question to you is if you can share about your career journey, how you started, and just to tell us where you got to today and how you got there.
Well, Tania, it's such a pleasure to be with you here today. It's such a pleasure knowing you since 2007 now. And I will start with a quick story. I remember joining Grameen Foundation in September of 2007 in Washington, D.C. I am originally from Bangladesh and was very excited to join Grameen. And having joined there, I was really happy to see that there is a fellow Bangladeshi at the organization. There was another gentleman by Alam at the organization as well. And seeing a bubbly you in your fundraising role at Grameen, I remember at a very early on a staff meeting looking at you, and I was shy just starting at the foundation, looking at you and saying, I want to be her. And I want to be as famous and popular and liked by everybody. And here I am. My journey took me at Grameen 20 years on, almost 20 years on. So how I started at Grameen, so I've had as a child, I grew up in Morocco, and we moved in Bangladesh in my teens. Went to school. I had to learn English. Went to school here.
Yeah, I'm going to pause you. Can you talk about that experience a little bit? Because I remember we were chatting a few weeks ago, and you were saying you came to Bangladesh and didn't know any English.
No,
and schools wouldn't want to take you because you didn't know English.
I only spoke French and Arabic, and I didn't speak any English. No schools. I went to Scholastica, another school, trying to get in, and কেউ নিবে না, আমি ইংলিশ পারি না, বাংলা পারি না। And প্রথম I remember মানারতে গেলাম, গুলশানে। মানারত আমার মনে হয় entrance exam-এ আমার 103 পেয়েছি। Yes. They still took me. And so, luckily, I had some very good friends who would teach me English, who would teach me Bangla and private tutoring. And, language, when you're very young, you pick it up, and it takes a level of confidence. And when you're speaking French, it is so similar to English. So I think I was able to pick it up very quickly and focused on English rather than Bangla. So I did my O-levels in French. So I did my education here in Bangladesh. At the age of 16, I actually started teaching French at the American school. So I used to go to the American school at 7:30 in the morning, teach 4th, 5th grader French, and then go to high school, finish my high school class, and then go back to the American school in the afternoon, and then teach the afternoon class. So I kind of juggled both education and earning some money.
Yeah, and at such a young age. So already being financially independent from such a young age. And I also, want to share with the viewers that she was making a lot more money even back then as a 16-year-old than many of us do today.
When the dollar value was 40 taka for a dollar, I remember কয়টা coke খাবো, so 8 taka করে coke ছিল. So anyway, and then I got in North South University. I did 2 years, and I was able to transfer my credits and go to the U.S. So I went now almost 30 years in the U.S. I did my undergraduate degree there in economics and business. And my last year in college, my advisor said to me, you're from Bangladesh, প্রত্যেক বছর যাচ্ছ, summer, winter break. How about, you go spend some time at the Grameen Bank, and go learn about the microfinance sector. Honestly, at the time, it was an alien concept to me. This was back in the 90s. And I was like, really, Grameen Jabo and all that. I wasn't really sure. I had a distant cousin of mine who was working at Grameen Bank, and I got in touch with him. And he says, come do your internship here. At Grameen Bank at the time, it was the village phone operators were making quite a bit of money. At the time, in villages where they didn't have electricity. A woman could power her phone through the solar panel, and she would then charge for minute use, incoming calls, outgoing calls, and she was making tremendous amount of money of a couple $100 a month, which is tremendous.
Yeah.
So I went there to study, I was asked, go see what is going on with these women, go interview them, go see their empowerment. And I saw tremendous empowerment of these women in the villages suddenly making good income. It was not just a cellular phone, but, they had a poultry business, they have a dairy business, they have, they were expanding, they had much bigger homes.
Yeah.
So I did see a change. I did spend about 4 months in Bangladesh, and then I went off, finished college, joined Merrill Lynch. I thought Wall Street is it. I made it. The money's good. You're getting to the spa. You're getting, you're working hard. You're partying hard.
Dream job for parents as well, right?
I know. I thought this is it. I'm at my pinnacle and I've reached it. But I have to admit, about 3-4 years in, something kept coming back to me. And that something was the Grameen experience.
Yeah.
Never having thought that would really impact me, because I'll be honest, when we lived in Bangladesh, having grown in Gulshan, we lived somewhat in a bubble.
Yeah.
You live in Gulshan, you go to school in Gulshan, your friends are there, your family is there. You kind of live in a little bubble, and not having visited, villages or being outside, I didn't have that exposure.
Yeah.
Until that Grameen experience. So back in the US, it kept coming back to me thinking is this what life is going to be about? And I felt I was not making a difference.
Right.
This is not meaningful to me.
Yeah.
Call it idealism, being in your 20s and, you want to, reach the world and make a difference. And I quit. I remember quitting Merrill on a Friday. Saturday, I moved to New York.
Oh, wow.
Monday, I started a graduate program at the New School in New York to pursue an international affairs degree with a microfinance focus. They allowed me to cater that research I had done in Bangladesh. The dean was very supportive and said, you can extrapolate on that and do more. And I wanted to get engaged more with Grameen and the microfinance movement. And this was before the Nobel Prize. This was before 2006 and Professor Yunus receiving his Nobel Prize. And I did that knowing that when I graduate, I want to work for Grameen.
Yeah.
And so I graduated in May, moved back. I was newly married. I moved back to DC area, and Grameen Foundation is based in DC. Luckily, our founder and CEO, Alex Counts, has an affinity for Bangladeshis. I was hired. So my journey at Grameen Foundation started I started as an assistant to the COO and the legal department. At the beginning, I thought, this is not ideal. This is not what I want to do. But it was a foot in the door. We're also an international student. You're dependent on H-1B visa and all of those hooplas. And I thought, this is a foot in the door. I'll get in. And very, soon into my studying studying at Grameen Foundation, this was in 2007. So the Nobel Peace Prize happened in 2006. I'm doing this in 2007. JP Morgan's investment bank came to Grameen Foundation with wanting to know more about the microfinance sector. And there was an opportunity for engaging their investment bankers in the microfinance sector. So we saw an opportunity to develop a volunteer platform. At the time, engaging the investment bankers from JP Morgan to volunteer in the microfinance industry around the world, and allowing them to travel and volunteer their time and efforts for 2 weeks. It was a generous, JP Morgan would pay them $3,000 stipend. They're not flying business class, and they're getting paid time off for 2 weeks.
Yeah.
And they would volunteer in Sub-Saharan Africa, in Asia, in Latin America, with the microfinance sector. So I was brought into the Bankers Without Borders program. We called it Bankers Without Borders because JP Morgan paid for the program initially. And then we saw my role within Bankers Without Borders was to expand and find other corporate partners to, engage their employees to volunteer with Grameen Foundation.
Yeah. I'm going to just ask you a follow-up question. So you joined as, assistant to the CEO.
Yes.
and a COO, and very quickly,
In a year's time.
within a year,
Yes.
you took on this Bankers
Bankers
Without
Without Borders,
Borders
yes.
initiative.
I was a relationship manager at first.
Okay.
You know,
So
my-
is it that, like Alex basically said, hey, Sabrina, run with this? Was it something like that? Like, why did they give you this
So
opportunity?
Grameen Foundation at the time hired somebody who had experience with a volunteer platform in another with the U.S. government, and then she comes in and she was going to form Bankers Without Borders, and I joined her team at the time. And my responsibility is to look at the sustainability of the program. JP Morgan was very generous, gave us a $6 million funding, no strings attached over 6 years, and said set up shop.
Yeah.
And they were quite generous. It wasn't just to engage JP Morgan employees to volunteer, but I quickly saw that if Grameen Foundation's mission is to eradicate world poverty and hunger, which is quite a big, mission, why stop with just the microfinance sector? So what started with that idea of developing a volunteer program of, in an Excel spreadsheet, 200 volunteers that first year, largely some of them are board members and, people we knew, interns and so on, mushroomed into something so much bigger.
Yeah.
Today, we're over 28,000 volunteers.
Wow.
And we're serving over 400 social enterprises worldwide in 48 countries.
Wow.
And we're a fully sustainable program, meaning companies pay us a fee or nonprofits pay us a fee for not just playing Match.com or Shadi.com in South Asia, finding the volunteers with the client organizations to volunteer, but we're also the wedding planners and the therapists post-wedding. And so we're finding the opportunities and finding the right volunteer to provide the service. And we're not just, okay, you're on your own, but we're providing some management support and making sure that these engagements are successful. Knock on wood, we do pretty good. We get always a 97% satisfaction.
Yeah.
But I'll be honest, we're not doing the 28,000 deployments a year. We're doing about 500 deployments a year. And so I did that for 18 years within Grameen. So very quickly, I actually took on the managing the Bankers Without Borders
because
program.
I'm sure the management also saw your interest and engagement,
and
and
it was successful. And I was bringing in the Google, we're bringing in the MasterCard, Dow Chemicals, the McKinsey, the Wells Fargo. We're collaborating with Wells Fargo for now 14 years, Capco Consulting for 14 years. So, and we use their employees, or anyone can sign up and we'll volunteer, and they can volunteer.
It speaks a lot to, I think, your engagement with these corporations, because being able to sustain these relationships with the corporations for so long is also, I think, indicative of the success of the program.
Absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely.
So if it wasn't successful, I'm sure they would have pulled out.
Absolutely. So it's not just in volunteering, as in mentoring, it's not just you're giving back. Yes, you're providing a skill set that a nonprofit may not have, but it's what you get back as well is extremely valuable.
Yeah.
What companies tell us, or what we are actually quantifying in these engagement, is the confidence level of that volunteer goes up.
Yeah.
The thinking outside the box, like you're talking somebody who's done risk management at his company for 30 years, and you send him to a rural beehive owner in rural Kenya and say, help link his product to the market, and that person doesn't even have a computer. You're somehow thinking outside the box to make it happen. And then so your skill set, and then you start, I meet volunteers day in, day out. They'll come and say, thank you, Sabrina. You helped us find purpose. We've been doing this. We haven't, even recognized what we've learned or recognized ourselves. And I feel like, my God, I've learned so much in my work, and that I'm able to contribute this back into the society. So we did that very successfully.
It speaks to your experience too, right? Because you were at Merrill, you thought, here I am at the pinnacle of my career, and then you're like, wait a minute.
Losing
Where's my
purpose.
impact? Right? I'm losing purpose. And so then to be able to go to a place and create that purpose for others, I think that's a very powerful, message also,
Absolutely.
right? An achievement.
I feel like that's what keeps us going, Tania, there is a bit of idealism, yes. At Grameen Foundation, when we do a climate survey, something that resonates with all employees is the mission of the organization, and that's what keeps us going. That's what keeps us, happy about our job and waking up in the morning and wanting to do this again. And that's why I stayed within the organization for so long. And I think last year I was made into the CEO role taking on Grameen Foundation into a new journey.
Yeah.
We formed an alliance with an investing arm, and Grameen Foundation's mission is beyond just the Bankers Without Borders. It was just a small program. We do so much in the eradication of world poverty and hunger, working with small entrepreneurs and women farmers around the world, and around financial inclusion, around providing them services, whether it's business knowledge or linking their products to market, or financial services, or financial education to young women. And now we've provided this technical assistance over 30 years. We're celebrating 30 years actually next year. And now we've joined forces in alliance with Unis Social Business Fund that provides loans to small entrepreneurs and farmers, and hoping that with the idea is that you provide investments and the bells and whistles around it, and provide the service to that entrepreneur and farmer. So that's where we're headed next. So I'm excited.
That is very exciting. Yeah, and it's all under your tutelage, so to speak. So I want to actually come back to that, right? And recently we had dinner with Alex, and he said something which really, it struck me, and I love what he said. Yeah, he said something along, yes, we had this search, and we engaged all of these entities to try and find our next CEO, but we didn't realize that our CEO was actually right under us, and I want you to talk about that a little bit, right? Because it's like, again, you had been there for so long, and of course you must know the organization inside out. So how did that part come about, right? So because from like assistant to the COO to being the CEO, really want you to dig into that a little bit.
Yes, so I've been with the organization for so long, and this opportunity came about actually a few years ago, and I didn't feel ready at the time, and I loved what I was doing at the Bankers Without Borders, and I wanted to keep doing that. So this opportunity came to me last year, and maybe it's also turning 50. You feel ready, and my son is also a teenager. He turned 15 two days ago, and he's more independent, and I felt like I'm ready to undertake a bigger role and take on a bigger role, and I have the time to travel. And I was a single mom for 10 years, and with that I wasn't ready for a bigger role, but the timing, I think it takes stars to align, and it also takes passion. It also takes, I have shown the organization that I have increased a program to its pinnacle. It's fully sustaining and doing really well. The being within the organization and knowing it inside out also helps. Building the relationship with our staff and knowing them really well. Being Bangladeshi and having the relationship with Professor Yunus and the Grameen Bank here in Bangladesh, and I do come quite often, and having that relationship, I think all played a role. And Alex is also a huge supporter and a mentor to me. So I do go to him. I still do, even today, even actually yesterday, sending him a text like, what do you think? How could I approach this? So I still surround myself with mentors, and so there's been a lot of board acceptance and approval. Staff also saying it makes sense. When the news came on to former Grameenis, they said, Sabrina, it's about time. So I think it's about time.
Sabrina, as you were saying this about this journey, right? It really sounds like a lot of self-reflection and growth, and I think self-awareness, because you said that you didn't feel that you were ready a few years ago when they asked you didn't feel that you were ready, and to me, I was going to ask you, what is like the aha moment, right? But all of these seems like a series of aha moments that then just culminated into this, right? But if I were to pinpoint and ask you, maybe you can talk about this one aha moment where you really felt like, wow, I'm making such an impact. Of course, you also talked about Bankers Without Borders, right? So it could be that. But is there anything else that you would like to share with us as an aha moment for you?
The aha moments, there are so many. I do feel inherent love and pride in the organization and what we stand for. When Grameen Foundation had its mission to impact 25 million women and get them out of poverty by 2025, comes 2025 and we hit 29 million women.
Oh, wow.
And that was a huge aha moment to say, look what the organization can do and what we're doing and the success and be part of it. And wanting to take that and take it forward. And this opportunity that I said, meshing the technical assistance to women entrepreneurs and farmers and bringing the investment, I feel is the next pull forward for us and reach more entrepreneurs and women. And so for me, that seemed like a natural fit. And the Bankers Without Borders is growing and has grown, and I feel like we did it, you know? So now what next? So that was for me that big aha moment to say, we're doing this well. We know what we can be doing better. And I felt honestly very ready.
Okay, so এখন তো আমরা অনেক সুন্দর সুন্দর কথা বলেছি, ভালো ভালো কথা সব বলেছি. Okay, so and of course with all the good things that happen in our lives and our careers, there are also of course many challenges that we have to face. So I'm going to just ask you about one challenge that you faced in your career, your personal life, and how you overcame that. If you could share about that.
Sure. Well, a few challenges. One, very apparent, with the new administration in the U.S., the political realm and all that. I mean, there's been a huge, with the cut USAID, the loss of funding for national development overall. That was a big challenge that us nonprofits are facing. But, honestly, with every challenge comes new opportunities. So while it was a challenge and we were like, oh my God, what are we going to do? Some programs had to close overnight. There's philanthropic individuals coming in and say, how can we help? Opportunities. As I said, now looking into the blended finance direction, that is an opportunity. So turning that challenge into an opportunity is important. On a personal level, I mean, I said I was a single mother and never having thought I would be divorced, and with a 3-year-old in my care and alone, and in a country that wasn't my own at the time, and we made it happen. The community kind of came on and in support, in love. And I have to say, I am thankful for Grameen Foundation. It allows me to come to Bangladesh and be with my 91-year-old mother and see her 2-3 times a year and be with family, and that flexibility of working from home. And so I think, what could be a lemon, and life throws you a lot of lemon. It's like, I think one advice is, how do you turn it into a lemonade?
Absolutely. So, you were talking about the challenge of like the funding crisis and stuff, right? So it's sort of like you all had to also think outside of the box, like your Bankers Without Borders, when they were going to the Kenyan farmer. So I just think, you guys also had to think out of the box, right? So it's continuous, thinking outside of the box, even the context we're in. This conversation has been superb, and I want to keep continuing it. I have one last question for you.
Go for it.
It's a good one. What would be one piece of advice, guidance, suggestion for our viewers, especially our female viewers listening in?
An advice, and I know you mentioned Alex Counts. Maybe I'll mention him in this podcast. A few years ago, he's a huge mentor to me. And he said something to me that resonated with me and said, Sabrina, while you can be a perfectionist and try to be, everything, you can't be it, hone in some of the skills you do well. And I know what I do well. I'm a people's person. I'm a relationship person. I'm good at public speaking. I'm good at marketing. But there are things that I know I'm not good at. So what do you do when you recognize some of your shortfalls or your blind spots, right? Is surround yourself, not with a lot, but with 4 or 5 closest leaders, mentors to you. And these mentors will bring in a skill set that you may not be good at. And by talking to them, you kind of either have them lead some of that work, provide you the insight that you may not have, but bringing that resource around you and surround yourself and tap into them or knock on their doors when you need that counsel. And that's something I took to heart. And honestly, running a 28,000 volunteer program, I do have access to such mentors, some women leaders and CEOs who happen to be in Washington, D.C. as well. And so we often meet, over dinner, over lunch, and an hour, and just run ideas of, what's going on in your head, or they'll push you. And some of them actually a few years ago even said to me, why aren't you CEO? You should be CEO. You are. Do you know, Sabrina, why don't you see it? Because we see it. And they would push me, ask the uncomfortable questions or the difficult questions. And as sometimes uneasy it would be, it pushed my envelope as well. And I felt those encounters, as innocent as dinners or coffee, do equip you with nuggets of wisdom that you need. So I would say kudos to you for running this mentoring program and allowing these nuggets of wisdom to so many of our women right here in Bangladesh.
Yeah. No, thank you so much. So I've been sort of saying that, mentoring is the not so secret, open secret to success.
Absolutely.
And really, truly, all successful CEOs, including yourself, you have benefited immensely from having mentoring in your life, right?
Absolutely.
So I think it's
and still do.
And still do. It's a continuous learning, right? It's a continuous learning. So Sabrina, thank you so much for being here. I can't believe how quickly that conversation went. It was so fun. It was really, really wonderful to have you on this new series that we're launching. I'm Tania Ashraf, founder of EGIYE. Thank you, viewers, for listening in. I hope you found it as insightful as I did.
Thank you.